So for the purpose of this recording, you may have to excuse some coughings and splutterings. We were discussing, therefore, in laying out the sum total composition of the entire of existence in the way the Sankhya's do it, in a categorical way. Sankhya's will lay out some 24 categories. We can also add to it. Sankhya system, being a dualistic system, will include Purusha and Prakriti as the two categories that go in parallel. And then from there we find, from Prakriti we find all the other categories and subcategories taking a place by interconnecting and interweaving and interacting with each other, just as we find in our modern cosmology. All our models will have this, that there is some kind of cooperative movement going from plasma, and then hydrogen and helium come under the influence of gravity, and from gravity we have clouds of gases that form ultimately galaxies. Things cool down after radiation, and then ultimately we have the universe that we see. And most people will agree on parts of those stories. In fact, all of that story. What we may disagree on is whether it's a linear progression, such as Big Bang Theory, or a steady state. And you may say, why are we still arguing over steady state? I thought that was gone. No, the quasi-steady state movement is still alive. But apart from that, we are not seeing necessarily the Big Bang as a one-off event that has a starting point at some, even a moment in time is not there prior to anything. There would be not a sensible phrase to say, to mention anything temporal, because according to Big Bang cosmology, time and space are not present. They're only present after a Big Bang. So when the singularity ceases to become a singularity through various models, an inflationary model and so on and so forth, then all of these things start condensing and making sense. In any event, we were talking about the Hindu cosmology, which is essentially based on the Sankhya system of categories, and how, because the universe has no beginning, just as if you take any person, you'll find that there are three states that we experience. And these three states rotate eternally, as it were. And then if you apply one simple criteria upon which, let's say, we all agree, an a priori statement that says that whatever happens on any level, no matter how small and how huge, the rule applies the same, and the law of nature being the same. And we experience ourselves as an individual person with individual adventures and challenges and responses and backgrounds and cultural inputs. Would the universe not be the same? Would the universe also not have a cosmic mind? Would it not have a universal body? Would the universe itself not be its body? Would the outer reaches of the observable universe not be its skin? And so we find many Vedic passages reflecting this idea. So we find in the Purusha Sukta the idea of this cosmic person with 1,000 eyes, 1,000 heads, 1,000 hands, everywhere, operating everywhere. And the Narayana Sukta saying similar thing. And then we have Bhagavad Gita reflecting it and so on, and the Shvetashvatara Upanishad also reflecting it. This whole idea, beautiful idea of a cosmic universe. And this becomes material for inspiration, because when we look around us, we can see only, instead of seeing the sun, we can see one of God's eyes. You see the moon, we see one of his eyes there. See flashing something somewhere, Venus, for example, which is very bright at this point in time. So another eye is there. And then when we see some great supernova, another mouth is there, and so goes on. Or black holes, we can say, innumerable mouths everywhere, consuming everything. and bringing everything out. So we can see this wonderful cosmic vision. And we so happen on Tuesdays now to have launched into the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which mentions this cosmic vision. The whole chapter is dedicated specifically to this whole thing, cosmic vision. And there we get the symbolic language. Why symbolic? Because it's beyond our imagination. Whatever we've discovered in modern science today in great detail is beyond our imagination. I have to use representative language. Even astronomer pictures will have to be filtered through infrared and so on for us to catch the various differences in gases and all the rest of it for our appreciation. They're all photoshopped or put through various filters so we can see them this way and that way and so on. Completely beyond our imagination. And 100 years ago, beyond our imagination even still, with every new advance and discovery, we find that it challenges our imagination. We can hardly think. Even not so long ago, we could hardly imagine that this wonderful thing that we saw in the mirror this morning was the home to billions and billions and billions of struggling and wrestling bacteria. 1 square inch of skin, put it under an electron microscope, you'll see small squirming moving things. 1 micron, no more than 1 micron, 1 millionth of a millimeter, all happily thriving on your well-kept, well-oiled, well-pampered skin. And when we say we fall sick in some cases and say, oh, it's a bacterial infection, what we really mean is that the flora fauna, the bacterial microbial flora and fauna that is useful to us, assisting our digestion, conditions change so that they're no longer the dominant, and the pathogenic bacteria say, yeah, we're king for a day. And then the body rallies around nicely, rallies all its antibacterial forces, all its antibodies, and sews the whole thing up. And in most cases, over time, it cures itself. I had an interesting discussion this morning. Oh, are you taking this or that and the other for your whatever you have? And I say, no, I don't do all that. Because every time you put something here, personal point of view, every time you put something here, some foreign body in here, with the idea of curing something internally, is equivalent to so much lack of faith in God and the body. God's body put here, where 1 teardrop is effective as a germ killer when diluted in 20 liters of water, where cilia are there to make you cough and splutter any foreign body, where hydrochloric acid sits in the stomach and allows any foreign material to be easily dealt with, and where throughout the whole body, a whole army of antibodies are there to immediately respond to any foreign difficulty in the body, provided it's left free to do so. So when they say, what are you doing? Oh, well, I'm putting the cold packs. And somebody remarked, well, they're not working because you still have this problem. And my response was, yes, it's working. You should have seen me 2-3 days ago. That was a coffin factory. So, and not a coffin factory, coffin. So these are some of the questions that we discussed this morning in relation to a cosmic person being there. This is what we call a universe. And one great theological reason for its validity is it does away with this dualistic complication that says, so there's a creator God, and where did he come from, who created him, and so on. And the only answer that we can come up with, self-caused. And creating a universe ex nihilo will not be the answer. No more than the current cul-de-sac in modern science, which says, where does the singularity come from? We say, everything comes from nothing. And this is discussed in the Upanishads itself, that existence comes from non-existence. A very old argument. And some say that existence comes from existence itself. Well, existence has to come from existence. How can existence come from non-existence? How can from something come from nothing? When you go and investigate where it came from, if you say it came from nothing, then what will you find? You won't find anything because nothing doesn't exist. So you're left with a difficulty. So some existent entity comes there, and therefore the Nirguna Brahman, the supreme entity that we laid out in our characterization, in Sankhya terminology being Purusha. This Purusha, this Brahman, this single entity without a second, this cosmic person, when left alone without a body, without a waking body, without a dreaming body, and even without dreamless sleep, standing alone in its pristine purity, neither coming nor going, can only be said to be existent, can only be said to be consciousness itself, subjective consciousness, and also bliss, and also infinite. We have no idea what infinite is. And when we talk about infinite, mathematicians have an infinity, and physicists have an infinity that indicates to them in their mathematics something's wrong. It's not the right model to follow. But in the sense that infinite, where no time exists and no space exists, something that has no measurement in it, no registration, no point where you stand in comparison with it, such an entity would be this Brahman. And our Vedanta philosophy says Atman and Brahman is one and the same thing. Following the same model, the whole body of the universe having its Atman. A human person, its whole body having within itself all these subtleties and ending up in this permanent witness, knower, thinker, all rolled into one. And the whole session began really with a question about consciousness. You can't imagine consciousness without a brain, but you're talking about objective consciousness. And where is that objective consciousness coming from? It's coming from a unity of existence that manifests it. So there's a difference in the examples. And during that discussion this morning, you give the example of the electromagnetic wave system, common example I'm using, which is constantly there, pervading everywhere, and all these adapters are there hooked into it. What technically we call upadis, restricting adjuncts, things that restrict it, yes. You can say in a certain sense, this light bulb is restricting the full capacity of the electromagnetic wave system. The whole electrical current, which is a wave system within this field, is being completely channeled, funneled, and restricted. But on the other side of it, on our side of it, it's a glorious, revealing thing. So it is a useful adapter to us. So in the same way, in this cosmic person, this cosmic unit, we find these useful adapters. The sun is an adapter, the moon is an adapter, your breath is an adapter, the head is an adapter, the eyes are adapters, ears are adapters, all ears are adapters. 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes, 1,000 ears everywhere means infinite adapters being present, but one single current working through them. Simply meditating on this fact comes to you on the principle that whatever you meditate on comes unto you. So it's a wonderful source of meditation. Any of these ideas and concepts picked up from the Upanishads, you see, are wonderful, wonderful subjects for meditation. All right. So now, I suppose we have to deal with the actual subject, yes? But we'll deal with questions first.
I have a question related to focus.
Okay.
I find it in meditation it's easier to focus than at work when I want to sit down and do something. And let's say I have to read some technical mathematics and I have to sit there for hours, try to understand. The mind is always tempted to go in all directions.
Yeah.
So I know the idea of looking at every activity in life as a form of meditation, and the notion of why we do this and for what purpose, but somehow I still find that I would like the focus of meditation to carry to real life, but
It was a confused terminology there, real life. So what is real, what is life may somehow be different. What seems to be real life, I understand your question. See, the whole idea is the mind requires some reason to work and operate in a certain way. So often we have to use the same techniques that we have to use with children, or the same techniques we have to use with other creatures. I was going to say animals, but then people think, oh, you're comparing animals and children. No, I'm not doing that. But you see, both require training, and the children have a greater capacity for learning. So you imagine in 2 years a child has learned a complete language. And within a very short period of time, a child is like a sponge, learns everything, because it's curious to learn. And if the curiosity and the excitement that goes with it is not present, then the activity, supposing the activity is mundane and not interesting, or is puzzling to start with, then I suppose we have to question, why am I doing this? What's the end result I require? And how can I make this enthusiastic? See? Now the way we deal with it in spiritual life is that even sweeping the floor can be done with tremendous mindfulness and devotion, because we revalue everything. Instead of saying, this is a broom and we have to sweep the floor, we can say, Lord, this is your area, your room, you are therefore material and effective and efficient and the material cause of everything, and everything belongs to Thee, and this is done in your service. Supposing we come across a mundane activity where there's an inner resistance to it, maybe we should have to make a preparation about it. That there's a causal chain. Why am I doing this activity? And how can I put my enthusiasm into the activity? Will I not have to revalue it in the same way as you revalue any mundane activity such as sweeping the floor that doesn't require much attention? Something that requires my full attention. Should I not start off with, for example, with a process such as, so my capacity to work around or to understand these mathematical problems, just as an example, is reliant on the fact that, and we were mentioning before, divine grace is flowing, has thought and the capacity to do it. And somebody else tapped into the grace in order to make the original formula in the first place, and my capacity to understand it in the second place. Then a registration of my own limitations, just as every adapter has its limitations. Can I understand anything in one go, or will I be prepared to take it apart step by step and have the patience to do that?
I guess the patience is a problem.
Okay. If you don't have patience, then you'll wind up as a patient with a heart attack or something. So patience means I register that there is a framework of time that allows me to take something step by step and allocate some overall time to do it and estimate how long each step will take, and then be enthusiastic to do each step. I'll give you some other example. I'll give you my own example. I wasn't very good at maths when I was at school. Very often a subject like that requires a very good teacher, and so very often that's the case. And then I thought, there must be a purpose behind all this, not just a rote thing with formulas. Must have some kind of meaning. So let me now see if I can work these things out independent of any other thing, and work out my own way of doing it, and try and make it as radically different as possible. And it took me longer, but I came to the same conclusion, the right conclusion, but with a roundabout way, and then I discovered what is being taught is a shortcut. Wonderful. Now I understand. So and it gave me a great enthusiasm for the subject, to the extent that I got into science. I got a scientific background. And it was a determination that I would balance the left and right side of the brains a little bit, having studied psychology also, and see if I could get some balance, just for the fun of it. And the point is, if activities are not fun and joyful and enthusiastic, then they will be met with a companion of resistance, negative reactions, which has us telling in every single level and layer of the human entity, including the body, circulatory system, the attitude towards life, everything would be shadowed with it. Bad moods are a result of it. And a bad day, well, a bad day just means that your response was bad. That's all. No such thing as a bad day. Every day is good. God made the world and so it was good. How can I see it as bad? The sunrise in the morning, did I notice it? Did I appreciate it? God woke me up in the morning. Come on, my child, it's time to get up. Sit in the morning with the idea that, see, it's a time of the morning before sunrise, and therefore a time of expectation, a time of excitement, a time of anticipation. Will I take it like that, or take it as a drudgery? So everybody is faced with the same kinds of environmental challenges and so on. These are raw materials, depends what you do with it. I'm fond of giving that example, and I'm also fond of repeating. So if you've heard it before, just tough luck. But so it's, you see, there was a farmer, I'm sure you know this now. You could probably complete the story for me now, from here on. Yeah?
No, I don't think I had this one.
He had to collect his water by going through his neighbor's field. He had no option to do it, so every day he took his bucket and set off. And so his neighbor had a curious sense of humor. I thought it would be very fun, since he's going through my land, and I can't stop him going through my land. Then what I'll do is, I'll ambush him. Every day I'll find a new position. He won't know where I'm coming from. But every day I'll fill my own bucket with as much fresh and smelling cow dung as possible, and give him a shower with this. Throw the cow dung wherever I can on him and disappear quickly. So fortunately the farmer realized, in order to get this water, I'll have to sustain this. But then after 1 year of this, the neighbor found a knock on his door. Now it's now November going into December, let's say Christmas time, when everyone is full of goodwill and good cheer, but still the cow dung kept coming. But after 1 year, knock on the door, a neighbor opened it sheepishly, and to his horror found the farmer standing at his door, and hesitatingly, hauntingly said, can I help you? Haltingly said that, and the farmer said he had something behind his back, and the neighbor thought, oh, here's cow dung coming back at me. But to his surprise, a beautiful, the most well-formed and fragrant rose flower appeared. And he moved it toward the neighbor. He said, I want to give you this. He he said, and the reason is, see all that cow dung you gave me the whole year, I planted a rose garden with it. And now I'm doing flower exports. And see, here's a sample, I want you to have it, with one request. What is that? This coming year, would you mind doubling the quota? You see, so with all the cow dung of life, the people interpret as cow dung things coming from this side and that side, and all things that we interpret as negative things, negative issues that lead us into areas of depression and areas of reaction and areas of impulsive movement and criticism and all the rest. These can be useful to us. These are the raw materials of life on which we build and make a useful thing. We have within us a transformational aspect that can take anything that we encounter and revalue it and transform it into something useful. And the art of doing that is called the art of life. So what is your raw material? Whatever you find yourself with, whatever's in front of you, whatever is on your plate, whatever's around you is your raw material. Don't judge whether it's problematic or not. Take it as good raw material, useful for your inner growth. So don't ask me how you tackle particular individual components of this. You have the capacity to transform it into something useful, and you do it. And you do it by the use of creative imagination. You use it by injecting an enthusiasm that comes from a spiritual base. And the spiritual base has this wonderful divine philosophy that says, there's everything here is divine, divinely supplied, with a divine capacity to deal with it. And all the so-called interpreted problems that come to me are done because there are matching solutions that come from within. And those matching solutions come from an area of poised creativity. And it seems they come from nowhere. So while brushing the teeth, for example, is a good example, the mind is not particularly occupied with anything, and a problem-solving area comes up, you'll find that from within comes a creative solution that can be tested out. And this is what previously I've called the 21st, or 20th, I should say, 20th elephant. So life can be taken as a kind of problem-solving game where an unusual creative solution is necessary, coming from within. We discussed superconscious mind, coming from an unconscious area that is actually God's creative area. And listening to it and responding to it and catching it, we get some unusually creative solution to our problem. Like working out mathematics. So sometimes this happens because we let go also. We're going into a different subject area slightly. So for example, there were well-known areas of where problems are solved in dreams. I think it was a great golfer, now I may be wrong, I think it was Arnold Palmer, or one of the great golfers. They made a corrected golf swing. They had problems in the golf swing. They had the adjustment was given in a dream. The light bulb that Edison's ever seemed to invent came to him in a dream. So many things like this. When conscious mind is sleeping, cosmic mind is still awake. It gives us the solutions, creative solutions to problems. And it's the same unconscious area that works when the mind is not particularly occupied with anything and various problems come up. And the problems are problems described not in a negative light, because there are people who go to great lengths. Sudoku, for example, and jigsaw puzzles and what have you. See? And mathematics is taught in the phrase of problems. See? They're not problems that are oppressive to you. They're problems which are a delight to work around and solve. See how many people watch murder mysteries and things like that, and spend enormous amount of time and energy figuring out a fictitious scenario. And reading books, Agatha Christie and all that, you know, you don't know who did it. And then the lineup comes, and you're still guessing. And sometimes you guess correctly, and then, oh, it wasn't the butler after all. It's fun. Take it in that way. It's a game of life. You know how to play it. If you take it in a different way, then life will be difficult. When we're talking of the subject, see, mukta or moksha, see, freedom from what? Well, freedom from the oppression that you're imposing on yourself. Not the world imposing from outside. You yourself created the problems and difficulties. Take a different approach, shift your thinking. Once you shift your thinking, you'll find unusual opportunities and interesting solutions come from unprogrammed areas. Unplanned dimensions come in. And all of a sudden it fits together. I like a jigsaw puzzle, see? So dare I tell you the old joke of the jigsaw puzzle, which you have heard millions and millions of times. But I'm known for two things: telling the same jokes, and secondly, repeating them endlessly for my own amusement. It's a selfish pastime, I know, but there we are. What you see there was a man from the countryside, and I'll tell you what, there's a profound meaning to all of these things too, you see. But he was very proud because he came to his city dweller friend and said, you see, I have this jigsaw puzzle, and I put it together, and it took me only 6 months. And his friend said, let me see this jigsaw puzzle, and he showed him with great pride, and he said, that doesn't impress me, he said. I can't understand what you're saying. It's only 12 pieces. He says, yes, but it only took me 6 months. He said, no, 12 pieces. He said, 6 months. He says, you don't understand. I'm trying to tell you that this is such a simple thing. You see, it's only 12 pieces. And the other person said, no, I'm trying to tell you something. Only 6 months. You haven't looked at this carefully. Look at the box. It says 2 to 4 years. See, the thing is, we take life and make it more complex than what it is. That's the first thing. And life can be much simpler when we reduce it down to its relaxed level, its non-stressed level. The second thing is this, that we take things in a different way. When we take things in a different way, in an unusual way, not exactly as another person takes it, then we'll find unusual solutions. We have to learn to revalue everything and shift everything in a fun way. It's easy to see things, it's easy and boring to see things in a conventional way as other people see it, because the result of that is I'll get all the problems and difficulties on me. And I'll compound the problems. The world is mad, and I can increase that madness in an instant by getting into the mainstream of the madness. A bullfight in Spain, where the crowd is out of control, not a bullfight, but where they let the bull out, you see, yeah? And they run out to the bull and tease it and all that. Yeah, running bulls, all right. Well, if you want to be damaged, then join the throng, join the madness, join the frenzy, get involved in it, and see, you'll come out wounded. It's much better not to tease the bull in the first place. So we have to learn to revalue things differently. All right. Okay? If you see, if we work outside those confines and boundaries, we're in trouble. And it's the same with training any entity. It's the same as training an animal or a child or anything. Not that I'm comparing the two. But children feel insecure if there are no boundaries. Boundaries have to be there. And in the old days, the boundaries were dealt with very swiftly, but then over time abused, no doubt, and that was brought to notice. And now the boundaries have been deconstructed, not to society's advantage. I'm telling you my personal point of view. Lest I accept the politically correct people and say, oh, that Swami is a bigot. But you see, here's the thing. You see, once you take the boundaries away, you take all the securities away. And then animals, you know, in a field with no fence, they're free to wander everywhere. And then when you want to call them in, no, we're used to wandering about. So there has to be strict boundaries laid down with consequences, with rewards and consequences. Rewards and punishments are the way that we deal with the immature mind until it's mature enough to be self-motivated. And this is just part of the training, and it's the same thing with the human mind at whatever age. So the human mind has to be given boundaries. These are the boundaries, and these are the consequences. One spiritual technique that I often mention is talking to the mind being spoken to. Rumi does it, many saints do it, Tyagaraja does it, the great South Indian saint does it, a number of people do it, to say, oh my mind, you can choose. I'm giving you democratic freedom. You can choose this way or that way, see. And the word choice is put there in Katha Upanishad. The preferential or the pleasurable, these are the choices. And you're free to make every choice you can make. And after 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, still Sri Krishna tells Arjuna, now I've told you all of this, now choose as you want. That level of freedom is still given. But you have to point out, these are the boundaries, and these are why these boundaries are there. And these are the benefits of going here, the benefits of there. Either you want some temporary pleasures here and there on the sense level, or, and the beautiful poetic phrase from the devotees to say, or sip the honey at the mother's, flowing from the mother's divine feet. See, that's a beautiful expression that comes out. What do you want, oh my mind? Do you want everlasting bliss? You want to drink the nectar? Or you want to drink a few Guinness here and there, in Irish speak. You want to create your self-comfort, your reward system, thinking that you deserve anything. You don't deserve anything, it's not yours. According to Bhagavad Gita, the only thing that we have a right to is
the only thing we have a right to.
Work.
Oh,
Work
yes,
is the only
yeah,
thing
work.
we have the right to.
Not
We don't have the right to the fruits of it.
Not the rewards.
Anybody who talks about human rights, this and that and the other, hasn't read this Gita passage. No, we have the right to work because we have the capacity to work. Everything else doesn't belong to us. How can we claim any rights? So let's look at all the arguments going on globally about a piece of land. This is my land, your land, all going down to tribal basics, saying this is my land, this is my land. In 100 years you won't care whether it's your land or anybody else's land, you won't be around to discuss it. And then you see Sri Ramakrishna says God laughs on 2 occasions. But the last occasion is when 2 brothers are fighting over land. This is my land. No, this is my land, my land, my land. Let's make war. And God is chuckling. My dear sons, it's my land. You think it's your land? I gave this example. We had a wonderful congress at Trinity College. And there was an organization that brought this together. There was a group of Palestinian people and Israeli people, and they decided, this is madness, let's get together, let's talk, let's find some common ground. And they came with a beautiful congress, and I was asked to be a facilitator. I said, why are you asking me? I'm not Palestinian, I'm not Israeli, I'm not Muslim, and I'm not Jewish. They said, for that very reason we want around you. All right. So I facilitated a group and I gave them that story. And they thought it was marvelous. They took great note of it. Supposing people said, no, wait. Are we not all children of God? Are we not all chosen people in that sense? Is this not actually God's land? Can we not just work together in some kind of mutually cooperative way? But you see, other people will say, oh, no, this is too idealistic. See? No, it's a practical solution. But what's the resistance to it? It comes down to egoism. This is my land. This is just an egoistic statement. This is my land. You have no right to this land. My forefathers had this land. Of course, in Hinduism, theoretically, we don't have this problem, because if you ask somebody, when did you become a Hindu? A reasonable response is, in which life are you referring? To which life are you referring? This life? The previous life? My next life? You see, thinking in this way declutches all these problems. When you bring out a unity of existence and have the goodwill that goes along with it, and the internal love that spontaneously comes out from this philosophy, then all these fractious problems go away. And the rest is pure materialism. At the root level is only Atma. At the root level is only purity and consciousness. At the root level is freedom. So what it really is, it's really on the surface. It's really, and because it's on the surface, and nobody has gone deeply. You see these two groups that got together, they managed to overcome that. They came to some sensible conclusion. Is it really worth fighting people over a piece of land, which is not really, after all, the most sought after land elsewhere? Supposing you wanted the ideal place to set up your home and land and agriculture, would you really want that part of real estate that is a dry desert and surrounded by hostility and so on? You want some desert island somewhere. Not really about. It's really about selfishness. You put it bluntly, selfishness. When you say egoism, selfishness, these are synonymous terms. Now, we're not getting into all of this politically or anything like that. It's simply to say that when, just generally, that when people claim something as their own, whether it be their body, whether it be their land, whether it be, whatever it is. Now, are we saying that we are not sympathetic to those who are suffering? No, we're not saying that. We have to make that correction immediately. So we're not saying that we're not sympathetic to those who are suffering. It's because we're sympathetic to those who are suffering on all sides that we want people to look a little deeper. And when you look deeper, you find that there is some entity that is one without a second, that is pure bliss, that is infinite consciousness, infinite existence. And enjoying that bliss is much more rewarding than centering yourself in materialism. And by materialism I mean taking the human body to be a serious, everlasting entity, and it's not. Taking the mind and the culture and everything that goes within it to be everlasting, and it's not. To take time to be infinite, and in the human sense it's not. So these are all temporal issues. There are no permanent habitants in this whole world. Not even this globe is a permanent habitant. Supposing you find the art of living another 5 billion years, be prepared for disappointment, because this earth will wander towards the sun, and the sun itself will start diminishing, and all of that is gone. The whole solar system is gone. but another solar system will be there. This is birth, life and death. Birth, life and death. This is the plot and the play of this whole cosmos, based on hydrogen, helium, and falling together, gravity, being subject to the laws of nature which keep things in a balance, that involve destruction as well as creation, as well as sustaination, and all gathered here so that you can discover it. All this energy going into fish pursuits and materialistic pursuits could all be internalized and centered toward love and harmony and all of the eternal issues which are summarized essentially in Swami Vivekananda's statement. Each soul is potentially divine, and the goal is to manifest this from within, controlling internal and external nature. Internal means the mind. And do this by one of four methods, one or more or all of them, and be free, either love of God or non-demanding love of God, or by psychic control, or selfless service, or meditation, one or more of all of these, and be free. And then goes on with this additional piece of information and shows us where we all got it wrong. Dogmas, doctrines, books, rituals, churches, temples, mosques are all but secondary details. When you reverse this, you have a problem.
How can we improve our attention? Because some days it's okay, other days not so good.
Okay. There must be a good way of creating the appropriate mood for meditations. So there are four kinds of meditators. This comes from the Course, of course. And
maybe for some people is easier than for others.
this could be, all right.
Yeah.
And maybe some people's distractions are more than others in their waking life. And you see, the prerequisite for meditation is not starting with sitting, it's starting with this yam niyam, this 5 moral principles which are there, and then these moral observances which are there. And then you see there are preparations. So for example, so selecting the seat well, making sure the seat is correct. All of these are preliminaries. So the preliminaries must be there. And without the preliminaries, then the meditation will not be sweet. And then there are other factors.
Maybe the place, but if you cannot...
Well, there are other factors though. There also, yes, place can be there, is a factor, but we have to live with what we have also. See? But for example, now with this chest infection, whatever it is, do you think it's easy for me to meditate? All right? Okay. But there's a seasoned meditator here, so I get round it, all right? But what it means is that the regularity of it has been disturbed. So I know when the physical condition gets better, then the regularity itself also returns, you see. Supposing that you are feeling tired, then Swami Vivekananda's recommendation is, do not meditate. There are some people who come on the retreats, for example, and they say, oh, I feel so guilty. All I did was slept and I didn't go to the morning meditation. And knowing their personality and knowing their lifestyle, etc., what they have to deal with, I say to them, the extra sleep is much better for you at this point in time. It's better that you did that. Now tomorrow, with a refreshed mind, you can meditate much more easily. So, you see, we have to make sure that the various conditions are there. I have a whole section on that, you see, in the meditation course, workshop. There are 18 mood cultivators are there. And it ranges from making sure that you have, yes, the right environment. Making sure that...
But I don't have the right environment.
Well,
This
what do
is-
you mean by the right environment?
Oh,
What environment do you have?
I already had the right environment, so I can compare to. I have a comparison. I have noise around. I don't have the right place, the right room, a proper room.
You see, if you wait
But I can
if you
live
wait
with
for the
it.
right ingredients,
live
you'll never
with
make
it.
the cake, you know.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
it. So we can manage the things. Okay, that's what I have. So
That's fine. There's always a way we can work with it, always a way we can adapt. Yeah, absolutely. You see, if you go to say, oh, here's what, I heard that you can get enlightenment in Kashi, in Varanasi. We'll go to Varanasi, you see. The three of us here will be going. So now, we have to tell you, all right, it's a very holy city, one of arguably the most ancient extant city in the world today. Will you get enlightened there? Well, it's up to you, but here's what you should expect. Noise. Probably dirt, probably squalor, probably begging, probably people seeing you Westerner, let me get some money, let me tell a story and get some money, let me fleece you as much as I can, let me surround you, let me, and so on, let me disturb you in every possible way I can. Possibly, see? You can either shake the dust off and move on to a quieter place, or understand what it means and what a beautiful opportunity it is in the early morning with the sunrise. See? So either way, so it's what we make of it. Right? We can meditate in the car, we can meditate in Grafton Street, or we can meditate any way you choose. Right? But ideally, yes, there are ideal conditions, no doubt. But these are beginning conditions. And once you can meditate anywhere, under any conditions, this will assist and help you in your meditation and make your meditation stronger, provided you have the resolve to persist with it. Under what conditions should we think of God?
All, everything.
All
everywhere.
conditions. We should think of God all the time. We should fix our mind on God. We should tune our attention into God at all times, whenever we are, wherever we are. If we learn the art of doing that, we can sit anywhere and meditate. And so there are no distractions in meditation. Anybody who thinks there are distractions in meditation are looking for the unrealistic ideal conditions that will never be there. And I always mention the same example. Again, I have a reputation for telling you the same thing about 100,000 times. That's okay. That's your problem, not mine. But you see, in Zimbabwe, there was a devotee there who built a beautiful place. They were an architect, actually. And they had a place overlooking what was called the Mutoko Mountains, or hills. We called them hills, but they were actually bigger than your 2,000, 3,000 foot Dublin mountains. Beautiful view, and there's a magic in Africa, you see. In the early morning and the evenings, the doves come out, and you hear the sound of the doves, and it becomes incredible. And you find different kinds of species and birds start awakening in the early morning, and the reverse starts happening in the evening. And every sunset and sunrise is a drama that you maybe won't get necessarily every day here in this part of the world. And we take it for granted, you know. Every day is a blue sky, more or less. We take it for granted. So, in this beautiful environment, this devotee built this beautiful home. Being an architect, state-of-the-art facilities there. And their shrine she built was on the outside, like a stone cave. She managed to excavate into a rock and put gates on it. That was her shrine. How was your meditation? I inquired one day. Oh, terrible, he says, I can't meditate. So what? In such a beautiful place that you built, seemingly exclusively for meditation? She said, yes, you see, I get up at 5 o'clock. So far, so good. Then what? Then I go to the shrine. Of course, it's not cold in Africa. Just a small shawl will do. So far so good. Then I sit down and everything is quiet. So far so good. Then what happens? Then the borehole kicks in. Duck, duck, duck. And then I can't do anything. And echoes, because it's so quiet everywhere else, it echoes across the valleys. You see, you can pick up that sound, is what I told her. Can you not hear the Om sound in it? Do you know what complex arrangements are necessary for the sound to be carried to the air, and for the air to then go through the whole process, and the waves come and be interpreted through the neurochemical processes that are so involved. If you count up the number of processes, you'll easily count up over 30 complex processes that have to take place before you can register this sound. Can you not make this the subject of the meditation? Is this not God saying, will you meditate on me as sound? And you have the good luck. It's not an erratic sound. It's a rhythmic sound. What a wonderful thing. And it's not only that, but it's connecting you with the idea. It's not any random sound. It's connecting your idea, concept of the water. The element of water coming from the ground. You have we put out the 24 cosmic principles here. 2 of those cosmic principles you already have. 3 of the cosmic principles you already had. Sound itself. Akasha, the primordial thing that bifurcates into all sounds, all ears that catch it, all vibrations. Can you not see how easily it comes from the ultimate Om, the sound of cosmic mind? Can it not lead you, therefore? By the time you've finished, you have the most wonderful meditation. So there are no distractions, actually, in meditation. There are no diversions of the mind, because everything, being the divine, being a part of the divine, being a manifest of the divine, becomes an opportunity to lead the mind, or lead, more accurately, the attention, back in a series of steps to the ultimate inward Atman, which is you.
Why Neo-Darwinism is in question.
In question. Yeah. All right, is in question. Okay. So we'll conclude with 5 minutes, maybe, on 4 minutes on that. But it was a theme we actually started discussing. So John was here and we were discussing that a little bit prior to the arrival. Firstly, what do we understand by the term evolution is my question to you.
Something is unfolding.
And what is then devolution to you?
Reduce.
We're going back again. Yeah?
Reverse.
Yeah. So evolution, involution, there's a process, like breathing in and out, there's a process. Now we already gave you a background that we don't think that the universe has a beginning or an end, but it looks like that. Something looks as if it's evolving, but it's not. So the whole idea of something evolving in the overall picture, whether you view this whole cosmic totality as a cosmic person or as a sheer totality, you'll find the characteristic of totality is it never goes anywhere, otherwise not a totality. So we have something that looks from our point of view as if it's changing, but it's not. And we don't have to look at something extra for it, something transcendent for it. The whole totality is available, and it's not confined to space and time. Therefore, it's not evolving in time, nor is it situated in space. Time and space is what is required if you use the term evolution or unfolding. What is meditation? Meditation is going in the reverse way, going from the outside to the inside, going to more and more subtle areas. So today we laid out more than 24 cosmic principles. And it was also a way of saying we can go from the grossest to the more subtle to the more subtle, the more subtle, the more subtle, until we find the unity of existence. A journey like that. We can choose to take 24 steps if we wish, or we can choose to jump 3 steps, or 2 steps, as we choose. But meditation is carefully taking the reverse of the evolutionary process. It's going inward, not outward. It's taking the reverse. If you had a time-lapse machine that said, okay, here's a seed and it's rapidly growing, we don't not conscious of the time because it's, you know, fast lapse and so on, and there's a full-blown tree after a time. Then being a film, we can easily reverse it. And you won't know. Supposing you had no concept of time starting from here to there, you wouldn't know whether it started off as a tree and goes back to a seed, or it starts off as a tree and goes to starts from a seed and goes to a tree. Supposing you were an alien and watching the movie, you have no idea whether it was a tree that went into a seed or a seed that went into a tree. So our position is, we're here in a fully manifest world, fully projected, with a number of steps that seem to be steps in evolution, seem to be because of our interpretation of looking at it. Now, when we take our interpretive faculties away, namely eyes and ears and so on and so forth, and through the sheer power of our imagination, we can then go in the reverse way and reverse the movie. What we find is that pure consciousness. Supposing the attention wavers a bit, let's go out again and come back, take another different approach, different branch, and come back in again. This coming and going is what we call the meditation process, until we find a point of poise where nothing moves and we catch, at least for a moment, a glimpse of the sum totality of being. And that really is the technically pure meditation. Then sustaining that through practice is meditation. Now, how does Neo-Darwinian develop? Well, it says things are evolving. In actual fact, there's no such thing as a totality. Is that we take our interpretation to be true, but even our interpretation is wrong because we want everything to be matter. And we want to interpret everything in a reductionist way. So that we start off with genes or DNA, which then go into nucleuses and various messaging services, as it were, and interactions and so on, comes out as cells and organs and humans. And that linear progression is the Neo-Darwinian model, and we were discussing earlier, is a 20th century model that has been misunderstood in a deterministic way, and it's not that simple. And all I'll do is tell you, I have DNA here, in the nucleus, instead of having a pathway up there to a fully fledged organism, it's actually, by the way, technically organism means phenotype. Phenotype, if you want to use a technical language. Phenotype, which incorporates not just the organ, but all its behaviors, its history, and everything, its birth, its growth, and so on. So let's say we are a phenotype. We start off from here. This was the old understanding. That is why, oh, Swami, you have something in your chest. Before we knew about DNA, and genetics and so on, we said that, oh, bacteria came like an air force and invaded you. But now we're saying, oh no, it's all genetics. You have genes associated with this. You know. Prior to that, genes were something you wore. But it's not as simple as this. No, because what we find is that these misimpression that genes control everything and control the expression of it here, the processes, and then there's the environment. We find actually the network of all of this here, going back and forth, is a complex network. And it's not linear like that at all. There's a part linear here, but it's not exactly in this reductionist way. What has this got to do with the Vedanta? It infers there's a coordinating, cohesive entity, not mentioned by biology because it's not its scope, that somehow has the intelligence to back up things. Because if you extract the DNA, as you can suck it out from the nucleus actually. It's a denucleation it's called. And then you put it in a petri dish with all the various nutrients and so on. It'll live there for 1,000 years and do nothing. It's, to all intents and purposes, dead with no functionality. It's just like a book with information or an architect plan. It sits there. It requires various instructions and connections. That's the point. And where are these coming from? There's a central intelligence that pervades all this networking. And it's the phenotype, the overall phenotype, that controls all the things. And so from Vedanta's point of view, this whole Neo-Darwinian evolution with its structure that gives you a reductionist point of view is not compatible with, firstly, the fact that the totality does not have evolution in it at all. And secondly, even the way we view it is highly complex and requires life. Now, what is life? Therein is a good question. Now we have to go to philosophy and find out. But from the Vedanta point of view, life is the manifestation and seeming fragmentation, the energetic input of the divine, which infuses you with activity, intelligence, and a reflection of life, light, and love, otherwise called existence, consciousness, and bliss. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace beyond.